Alright, round 4 begins, starting with first player Michael. Michael is over here in the Black Cave. And what I wanted to do is to move here and into the Abyss portal. Now he'll have to generate 2 movement points, and upon leaving the Rivertown streets, he'll also have to evade the witch. So let's see how we can adjust his skills. Let's move him down 1. For second player Daryl's upkeep phase, we'll give him $2 first. $2, and then we'll actually trade these for 5. Okay, $2, and then we'll go ahead and roll the 1 die to see whether he keeps his retainer. Okay, so he does. Alright, Daryl the rich man. He is over at the science building. So, what I think Daryl would need to do, because he has 5 clues now, I think he could come down to the uptown area here and enter the Abyss portal here. So he would need to generate 1, 2, 3 movement points. And he currently has exactly that. He has 3 movement points. So Daryl would need, well, when he comes out, we'll want him to close the gate with his fight. So eventually we'll have to move this up. Question is, do we want to do that now? Alright, let's start moving stuff around here. I'm gonna move his fight up 1, and then his luck down 1. Unfortunately, I had hoped to play this card pretty soon, but it would require too many movement points from me, and I think priority should be sealing the gates. So we won't, we had wanted to up our lore to do this roll, which is a lore -2, but because we're going to gate now, I think I would be more comfortable with a higher luck than not, because I think a lot of encounters require the luck check. So we've moved our fight up 1, our lore down 1, and that would be the end of the upkeep phase for Daryl. Gloria is still over here. She needs to close this gate, so let's take a look at her skills. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just basically move her sneak down to 2 points to 2, because there is a monster over here that she needs to evade when she comes back out after closing the gate. And then she'll close the gate with lore of 4. Arkham encounter phase, starting with first player Michael. Michael has 2 movement points. He'll spend the first one leaving the Black Cave, going to the Rivertown streets, and he's trying to get to the graveyard with his 2nd movement point. But he notices this witch in the shadows in Rivertown. So Michael needs to sneak out and evade this witch as he's leaving Rivertown. So let's do a sneak check. Michael's sneak is 4. We've maximized the sneak to 4, so we'll need 4 dice. Alright, let's do the sneak check. The witch has a sneak of -1, so that would be 3 dice. So let's roll 3 instead of 4. Okay, and see whether we can successfully evade the witch. Okay, unfortunately we do not successfully evade the witch, so we'll now engage in combat with the witch. Michael will now engage in combat with the witch. So let's take a look at the combat side of the witch, which says she has magical resistance. Okay, so magic for her will be, all the magic attacks towards the witch will be halved in terms of their impact. So we'll have to try to hit her with physical weapons instead of magic. Okay, so because we failed the horror check, the evade check, we're now engaging in combat with the witch. The first step in combat is to take a look at this number here. So for example, because this is empty, I'm just gonna grab the other monster we have here. This number here, the first number in the bottom left corner, represents the horror check modifier. So what it means is, upon facing this horrendous, monstrous enemies, our investigators are terrified and they have to make a horror check to see whether they are courageous enough, to face the horrors. So in this case, you would have to make a will -2 check for if you're fighting this particular monster. So whatever your will is, -2, and roll the die, see if you get a 5 or a 6. Upon success, you pass the horror check. If you fail, you would take damage here. The 4 blue here represents 4 sanity damage because you cannot face the horrors of the monster. And then after the horror check, pass or fail, you move on to the combat. So what you need to do here is look at the rating here, the modifier for combat. So it's your turn to attack this monster. And so you would take whatever attack you have. Let's say you have a fight of, 3. In this case, we have a fight of 3. And then we have some bonuses from our allies and weapons. We'll add them all together, minus this number, -3. And then roll the dice with that number and see whether we get a success. Upon success, we'll defeat this monster. And actually, there's a toughness rating here. 1 blood drop means you only need 1 success to kill this monster. There could be certain monsters with more, like this one with the 2. So that would mean in your roll, you would need 2 successes to kill this monster. If you do not kill this monster, let's say you fail this check completely, you don't get any success, you would take this sanity damage, the 2 hearts. So you would, sorry, not sanity, stamina. So you would take 2 stamina tokens away from your hero. And then you would have to go through the battle again with another roll for the attack. So let's play that out with the witch and see what happens. The first thing we'll have to do is do a horror check. Good thing for the witch is she actually does not have any horror damage. So really, pass or fail, there's no consequences. So we'll skip the horror check. And then we'll go into the combat. Okay. Alright, let's take a look at what Michael has. He has his Tommy gun, which is a physical weapon. And that's good because the witch has magical resistance. And he also has an ally with a +2 fight. On top of that, he has 3 fight himself. So that's 3 + 2 is a 5, + 6 is 11. So that's 11 dice. And then -3 for the monster here, which is 8. So Michael has a high chance of success here. He'll roll 8 dice. And he only needs 1 success because the witch only has 1 blood drop. Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8. We only need 1 success. And we have a couple. So easily we've took down the witch. Okay, this witch is now in our player area as a trophy. And Michael McGlenn, because he engaged into combat, can no longer move into the graveyard. The fight ends his movement. And that would be the turn for Michael's movement. Second player, Daryl. Daryl is going to spend his 3 movement points and simply come down here, 1, 2, and 3. Stand by at the Abyss portal for going into the other world of the Abyss. For Gloria's movement, she's not going to go anywhere because she has to close this gate at the next Arkham encounter phase. So she's just going to stay put And that ends our movement phase. And now we'll go into the encounter phase, the Arkham encounter phase. First player, Michael, doesn't do anything. He doesn't have any encounters in Rivertown because he's on the streets. Daryl will now, for his Arkham encounter phase, he'll be drawn into the gate. He'll go into the abyss over here in the other world. Alright, Gloria. Gloria is going to attempt to close this gate now that the environment card, the nasty one before, is no longer in effect. So Gloria will go ahead, and she's rolling with her lore, which is a 4. And so she'll grab 4 dice and see whether she can close this gate. Now, before you roll, however, there is a modifier for the gate itself, which in this case, for the City of Great Raids, it's +0. So if that number had been +1 or -1, you would add or subtract that many dice from this row here, and then roll for that. So because it's +0, we'll just go ahead and roll with our lore and see whether we can successfully close this gate. Okay, we have 6. That's a success. So Gloria successfully closes the City of the Great Raids portal. She'll take this token, put it in her player area, and now she can also seal with her 5 clue tokens. So we'll grab those 5 and seal this gate. Upon sealing, we'll grab this Doom Track token, flip it over. This is from the box, not from the Doom Track. And on the back is an Elder Sign graphic. So that means we've sealed the gate. And upon sealing, no more portals may open up in this location. As well, all the monsters with the symbol of triangle, the symbol over here, will be removed from the Arkham location and thrown back into the Monster Cup. With the Arkham encounters now resolved, we'll move into the Otherworld encounters. Starting with Daryl, he just came into the Abyss, and he'll now draw the gate encounter cards for this. Now we need a red or a blue. Okay, so we'll draw red or a blue. This is a green, this card. Keep drawing, red or blue. Okay, he gets a blue. And it says, pass a luck -1 check to find something to defend yourself with. Take the first weapon from the common item deck. So Daryl's luck right now is at a 3. So -1 is just 2 dice. So we'll go ahead and roll these 2 dice and see whether we get to find a weapon in the common items deck. And we do. We get a 5. So that's a success. So let me grab the common item deck and we'll go through them. First one is an ancient tomb, which is not a weapon. Second one is a magical weapon. This counts as a weapon because this card does not specify whether it could be a physical or magical. So the cross will be the one that we take. Mythos phase again. With that, we'll draw this and then add a Doom token to the track, which is now 5, so we're almost halfway through. So this card we've drawn here is an environment card. Independence Square, you get a portal there. Now, because we have a portal at Independence Square, this means that there would be a monster surge. And what that entails is we basically add monsters to the board equal to the number of gates or players, whichever is larger. So we have 3 players, obviously, and we also have 3 gates opened. So that's 3 and 3. So we'll just grab 3 monsters from the bag, and we'll have to place them onto the Arkham board here. Now, let me tell you about the monster limit. In this game, there is a monster limit, a limit on how many monsters you can have on the Arkham City board. And for 3 players, excuse me, it is number of players plus 3. Well, for any number of player, it's number of players plus 3. So for 3 players, the monster limit is 6. We have 2 monsters only on this board, meaning even as we get a monster search with 3 monsters, that will only bring us to 5. So we'll still be good with the monster limit. If, however, we go beyond the limit, so let's say we actually need to have 7 monsters on the board, that would mean that our monster limit of 6 would be surpassed. So the 7th one is placed into the outskirts in the city limits. There is also a limit on how many monsters you can place in the outskirts. And for the rule is really 8 minus the number of players. So this would be 8 minus 3, 5. And if you go beyond that, once you go beyond 5, on the 6th monster that's placed on the outskirts, you would actually grab them all, put it back into the monster bag, and then move the Doom Track token up by 1. So really, what's going to happen if that occurs is Doom Track's going to move up, and gradually as it moves up, things would close. So at 3, the general store would close. At 6, I think the magic shop closes, and at 9, the curiosity shop closes. And finally, at 10, there would not be a monster limit on the board, and monsters are free to enter Arkham with no limit, as there was before the 10. The other thing that would also happen is as the Doom Track moves up, every time the Doom Track moves up, one of your allies is terrorized, and they would leave town. So you would have to go get your ally deck, draw 1 card, and remove that ally from the game itself. So those are the consequences of having too many monsters on the board, having it flood the outskirts, and then consequently it would race the terror track and stuff would close, allies would leave, and monster limits would be foregone at the 10th level. So we're going to draw for our monster search from the monster bag. So we need 3 monsters for the 3 gates. And the first monster is a formless spawn. And this guy, sorry, before I draw, I should have told you which gate I was going. So I had meant for it to go onto the Independent Square, the monster search area. So this guy, formless spawn, will now go on to this gate, the Independent Square location. Okay. Second monster will go to, I think, I don't know, hopefully we get an easy one. We'll need 1 monster at the graveyard anyhow. So let's let it go to the graveyard, because the rule is to divide the monsters as evenly as possible amongst the gates, and in this case that's just 1 at each. Alright, so we get an Elder Thing going to the graveyard location. Okay, graveyard, and the third one will go down at the woods here. And it would be a flying monster, the Baki, however you pronounce that. Okay, a flying monster. Flying monsters' movements are a little different, and we'll talk about it when this guy moves. Next up is monster movement. So for this particular card, we have monster movement happening for white at squares and diamonds, squares and diamonds. Alright, and then circles. Squares, diamonds, white, and circles, black. We have squares. This guy is a square. And basically he's special though. He basically would just move to the nearest investigator, so he doesn't move because Gloria is standing right next to him. Squares and diamonds. Diamonds, diamonds, diamonds. Okay, we do have a diamond over here. The Elder Thing is a diamond monster. So he will go ahead and move out of the graveyard and into the Rivertown. Okay, so he'll move into Rivertown along with Michael. And then our third symbol is the circle. So this monster we've just drawn, the flying monster, does have the circle symbol. And so the movement for flying monster is if there are any investigators in its in the neighborhood that it's in, which is uptown right now for this one, it would move to the investigator in the streets of the neighborhood. If there isn't, it would just go into the sky, which is over here, and when it next moves, it can fly in the sky and attack any investigators that's on a street and not in a location. So for this turn, however, it will go to the sky because there's nobody here. The movement for the flying monster can be complicated, so I would refer you to page 11 of your rule book, where there's a section that talks about the flying monster movement. The next thing is to resolve the clue, and it says clue appears at the unnameable. Okay, so we'll put that there. And because Gloria is already at the nameable, she actually automatically gets this clue and get that added to her inventory. The text: investigators cannot gain stamina except by receiving medical care in St. Mary's Hospital, Orphan Vincent Lee. Okay, so we'll take this card, replace the old card, and discard this old environment card. And that ends the Mythos phase. And before we move on, we'll move the first player marker down to Daryl Simmons, and that ends turn number 4.